Hey, this is Jose, and this is video number 9 of the 11 video series. And what I have planned for this video is to talk about authenticity. Now, the thing about authenticity, and this really ties into a lot of the stuff I've talked about before. So if you haven't seen any of the previous 8 videos, go back and watch some of those, because this will give you some really good context about what it really means to be authentic as a person. And so I talked about this a lot in my last video in terms of relationships and even communication, where the first level of authenticity is just being honest about the things that you like. Okay, so being honest about it and really just communicating about things that you're interested in. So that's the first way to be authentic. But I think there's a couple of deeper levels that go into this in terms of becoming the best version of yourself. And because when you become that best version of yourself, it's 100% easier to be a lot more authentic with people. And so one of the biggest things, at least for me personally, that helped me become a much more authentic person was actually overcoming my depression and anxiety. And so if you've seen my stuff and you've talked to me before, you'll understand that I got diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and narcissistic personality disorder when I was 23, but I realized that it was something that was holding me back my entire life. I didn't realize that this was that the feelings that I was feeling and the sensations that were going on in my body were symptoms of anxiety and depression. And so it was really hard for me to be real with people, and it was especially hard to let people into my life. I couldn't make myself vulnerable. It was really hard to talk about these things. I couldn't even voice my opinion on certain matters because I was too afraid of what people might think of me. That was a symptom of the anxiety. And I always thought that my thoughts and my opinions and feelings weren't as valid as someone else's. Now, fast forward a couple of years to the person I am today, I understand myself on a very, very deep level. I know myself inside and out. I spent years focusing on self-mastery. So mastering who I am as a person, what are my strengths and weaknesses, what are going to be the things that are going to provide me the most long-term value, and what are my tendencies, what's my personality type like, who are the people that I gravitate more towards, what are the type of things and circumstances and opportunities that I mostly attract. Okay, so really understanding myself on a very, very deep level, who I am spiritually, who I am energetically, what's the type of energy that I put off. Okay, I know exactly the type of person I am nowadays. A couple years ago that wasn't the case, and so it was really hard for me to be real with people. It was really hard for me to give people a taste of who I actually am. Now, fast forward to right now, it's a lot easier for me to be authentic with people. Now, you might be thinking, it's like, okay, well, how do I implement those things in my own life? And there's a couple of simple things that can be done. And the thing about it, it's simple, but it's hard to execute on, because it does take generally it takes a lot of time to be able to come into yourself fully, right? You think about a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. It doesn't happen in an instant, right? It takes time. They go into a cocoon, they have to grow, and they have to spend time alone, and they have to spend time to figure out who they are as a person. It just doesn't happen overnight. Now, the quickest way to really find some centering and some grounding in yourself is really just to kind of journal about these things. Okay, write down and really start to think about what is your life going to look like. When you're able to write those things down, it's a lot easier for you to be authentic with people, because you know what you want out of your life. I think that was, figuring out what I wanted in my life, figuring out exactly what it was that I wanted out of my years on this planet was one of the biggest things that really helped me be authentic with people, because now I know exactly what I want, and so I can communicate that in a way that is efficient, that is engaging, that gets people interested in that, right? And if they're not interested, they just go their separate ways, right? You're not here on this planet to make every single person happy. You're not here to be friends with absolutely every person that you possibly meet. You're going to polarize people one way or the other. That brings me to my next point: polarizing people. Okay. So a lot of authenticity. You can be authentic with yourself, and then there's authenticity with other people. Now, when you're authentic with other people, you polarize them one way or the other. And what do I mean polarize? I mean, people are either going to really, really strongly have an attraction towards you, right? Or they're going to hate you so much, and they're gonna go a separate way, right? You see that today in things like politics, right? Look at Donald Trump. He's probably the most polarizing person on this planet right now. He polarizes people so harshly in the negative context that they literally come up with a term called Trump derangement syndrome. Okay, and then on the other side, you have people who think he's like the next coming of Jesus. Okay, literally, like he polarizes people so hard that they think he's the devil or they think he's Jesus. That's how hard he polarizes people. Now, you don't have to do that in your own life. You can obviously do that in a much more subtle context, right, and in a much more normal way, right, where either people are just really attracted to you and your lifestyle and the things that you speak about, or they're just not, and they just kind of go their separate ways, right? You don't need to have half the country hate you to death and the other half love you to death, right? And I think, part of being able to have that kind of effect on people is really being authentic with yourself, okay? When you're true to yourself, you begin to communicate and speak about things that really align with who you are deeply. And when you start to do that, that same effect happens to the people you are communicating with. Does that make sense? And you begin to, and this all it's crazy how all these concepts are sort of like the concepts that I talked about in the previous videos are sort of starting to wrap up and really, this is sort of like putting the bow on the gift, on the present, where it's like your subconscious mind will begin to attract the circumstances and the people that you want in your life that line up with who you are authentically. Okay, it's really, I feel like I'm even repeating myself multiple times here, just sort of trying to explain this concept because it's very, very subtle, but at the same time it's extremely, extremely powerful in terms of creating and manifesting the life that you are meant to live. Okay, so hopefully it all makes sense. Now, I think the biggest problem that people have with authenticity and just being an authentic person is the fact that they're afraid of criticism. They're afraid of polarizing people in a negative way. They're afraid of rejection. They're afraid of failure. Okay, there's all these fears and limiting beliefs. Okay, going back to video number 2, there's these limiting beliefs that really hold people back from just kind of being who they really are naturally. And a lot of it stems from self-esteem issues, self-confidence issues, but realistically, when you put those things aside and you really just begin to live true to yourself, completely selfishly, right? You're selfish with your time and your energy. You're selfish with the things that you say, and you really begin to attract the lifestyle that is meant for you, okay? Now, when I say selfish, I don't mean selfish as in a win-lose situation. I purely mean and selfish as, when you finally once and for all decide to be selfish with your energy and your time and even your finances and your attention, you begin to be selfish with those things. It's better for the people around you, and here's why. When you turn inward and you become a more selfish person, you're bringing out the best in yourself. You're becoming the best version of yourself. You're giving yourself the opportunity to really come into who you are. And by coming into who you really are, it brings out the best in other people as well. Right, there's a really good book on this called The Virtue of Selfishness by Ayn Rand, and I would encourage you to read that because the book is a series of essays that she wrote over a number of years, her and her partner, and they talk about the virtue of selfishness. People nowadays think selfish is like a bad thing. Everybody wants to be a humanitarian. Everyone's an altruist. Everyone wants to help other people. When realistically, what's going to help other people more is helping yourself. Okay? Figuring out what are those things that you're doing that are holding you back from your life, what's holding you back from your success is ultimately what's going to bring other people success, okay? And this is very, very true for me. There's one of my favorite speakers and psychologists. His name is Jordan Peterson, and you've probably heard of him. And Jordan Peterson, he has a book called The 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. And the number one rule, the first one is clean your house. And it's a metaphor for cleaning yourself up first, okay? The whole concept behind the chapter is you want to clean up your house before you go around cleaning up the rest of the world. And I find that to be so true. I find that to be incredibly, incredibly real because what happens is if you don't focus on becoming the best version of yourself first, and you instead focus and put your attention and effort into helping other people, you're not going to be as effective as if you just focused on yourself, right? This is very true for finances. You can help so many more people. You can literally provide change and resources to so many more people on this planet if you get rich first. Does that make sense? It's the richest people in the world are the ones who are providing the most humanitarian efforts to different parts of the world and to different people who are afflicted with different things. This whole notion that selfishness is bad is taken out of context in terms of if you're selfish and you're putting yourself in win-lose situations where you're winning and you're fucking people over so that you can win. Yeah, it's obviously negative, but if you just take the time to cultivate your own sense of confidence, your own sense of purpose and identity, those things will ultimately lead you to being a much more authentic person, and thus provide for you a greater quality of life, and thus the people around you will also have a greater quality of life just by being in your presence, okay? So hopefully that makes sense on why it's really, really important for you to be a very authentic person, not only with yourself, but with the people around you, and literally, just be honest, right? It's a deep, unapologetic honesty about what you're interested in, what you're doing with your life, what you think, and free of guilt, free of shame. You are the captain of your own ship, and when you start to begin to communicate and act in alignment with that authentic person that you are deep down inside, really, like, your circumstances in life just get that much better. People respect you a lot much more. They admire you a lot. They admire you a lot much more, and you really start to begin to bring out the best in other people too. So that's enough for authenticity. I'm going to be dropping some more videos. If you resonated with this, or if you have any questions, drop a comment below. If this is something that you resonate with, or someone you know would resonate with this on a big level, send it over to them. I want to connect with you guys. I want to connect with them, and I'm going to keep these rolling. I'm going to have some more stuff coming out soon, and yeah, looking forward to it.